Hello, it is the 5th of January and I am going to do a slightly belated wrap up of all of the books I read in 2023. How many books did I read? That was a bad question. I feel like my Goodreads and my little journal things say different, but my little bookie, which I believe more because I log everything in here, and Goodreads can be a bit funky sometimes, but this is telling me that I read 135 books, which, so many books. That's so many books. I don't really plan on surpassing that this year. I literally made my Goodreads goal 100 books. I don't really care if I hit it or not. As long as I'm reading good books, I don't really care how many I read. And I feel like in the last few months of this year, the amount I've been reading has been going down because I'm just like reading good books, probably a little bit longer books, whatever, you get what I'm saying. So the first book that I read in 2023, oh, it's like, this is gonna be annoying having to get the ones that are like stacked. Siege and Storm. This is by Leigh Bardugo, second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I literally read like Shadow and Bone over New Year time. This was fine. Don't really remember much about it. Like, I rated it like 4 stars. Then I read a book called Freezing the Puck. I remember nothing about it except the fact that it was a hockey romance. I am deducing that from the name, and I believe it had pregnancy trope, which I usually hate, but I feel like I didn't hate it that much because I gave it a 4 star. I read Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. It's about a guy who was like kidnapped for a while. It was pretty good. It was pretty entertaining, but I don't like think about it ever. And then I read Ruin and Rising. This is probably my least favourite book in the trilogy, if I'm remembering correctly, because I just didn't care about how it ended. I thought it was like, okay, whatever, who cares. Haunting Adeline. Oh my god. I was literally talking to my friend Megan about Haunting Adeline yesterday or the day before because her mum asked for it for Christmas, and she was like, oh my god, my mum asked me for this book for Christmas, I didn't know what it was about. And then I like looked it up and I was like, Megan, that is the most book I've ever read in my life. Like, I know that people love it, but for me personally, if you are interested in that book, read the trigger warnings and just don't, because I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong and I don't like it, and it's just bad for me. But I won't yuck you yum, but that's a yuck to me. Thrive by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the 6th book in the Addiction series, which is crazy because this feels really far along in it, but also it's not that close to the end of the series. I think I gave this a 4 star. This is, I don't remember this as its own, I just remember the whole series in general. It's with these books, I love this series when I'm reading it, but I don't like feel a pull to read it. Like, I go a lot of time in between reading the books, and then when I finally read it, I'm like, oh my god, I love these characters, I love these books. Yeah, so I don't know what that says, but I gave this like a 4 star, so it wasn't my favourite in the series. Okay, so next, apparently, I read a book called Dirty by Kylie Scott. No clue. I have no recollection of that book. Next, I read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I was so excited to read these books because I didn't mind Shadow and Bone. Like, I quite enjoyed it. And I feel like a lot of people don't love Shadow and Bone, and then they read this and they are obsessed with it. And again, my friend Megan that I was telling you about loved this duology. I did not love the first book. I think I gave it a 4 star, but honestly, I think that was me being like, I should love it. Like, really thinking about it, this is probably like a 3 star, maybe even a little bit lower to me, because I just really couldn't get into it. I didn't care to read it. It took me so long to read both of the books in this duology. We're not there yet, but yeah, I just didn't love it. I don't know why I couldn't get into it. Okay, next I read Drive by Kate Stewart, and this was like another Kindle Unlimited one, and this was so rogue. I gave this a 5 star. I absolutely loved this book. It was a duology and I read both of them. Like a love triangle, but both relationships were like really fully fleshed out in my opinion. Like, they both had a lot of merit and I enjoyed both of them, and I just loved it. And it was a like musician rock star kind of romance, which love that. And then I read a book called Rock My Heart by Nadia Blair. I'm so embarrassed. Like, some of these are embarrassing to say that I just like saw that and was like, yeah, Rock My Heart. But I definitely picked it up because I wanted what Drive had just given me again. I gave it 3 stars, so obviously it wasn't that amazing, but I guess it was fine. And I read Reverse, which was the next book in the Drive duology, but I gave that like a 4 star because it wasn't a continuation of that romance. The people who ended up together in the, what's it called? Trilogy? No, that's not what it's called. Thruple? No. Love triangle. Their child and the person who got booted out of the love triangle and his like future partner's child. Are we kidding? It was not as good, but good. Next, I read Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. I gave it a 5 stars. This was so good. I still remember it really well, which, considering I read it right at the start of the year, is amazing. It's about a guy who's like, I picture him as Chris Evans. I feel like he was written with Chris Evans in mind. He's a superhero on a movie, like literally like Captain America vibes. But little does everyone know, he has a kid back in like his hometown, I guess, with his like childhood sweetheart, and you're kind of flipping back and forth between him kind of trying to come back into their life and them like meeting and falling in love when they were younger, and then like what broke them up, why they like, she left him, he left her. So good. I absolutely loved this. Next, I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I gave this like a 4.5, 4.75. I really enjoyed this one as well. Can't really remember that much about it except for him booting her over a gate. And I don't know if that's actually what happened or if they found some other way to get through the gate, but I just remember trying to get over a big gate. I'm not very picky with books. I like most books that I read. Did not. Hated. I read this in one night because of how much I didn't want to read. Like, I was like, this is getting finished now, and I read it like this. Skimmed the whole thing. I'm not gonna ruin it because that would be wrong. Looking back at him in the past, he was so weird. Like, the way he would talk about this girl was so obsessive and weird, and I hated it. Hated. I just didn't like it. It was boring. I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I really enjoyed this. I think it's probably my favourite Tessa Bailey book that I've read. I don't know if I'd still enjoy it as much now, to be honest. But I gave it like a 4.75, I think. I rate it really highly. And yeah, it was fun, and I feel like the guy in it was a good kind of grumpy in my opinion. Like, he was more like stoic. You know what I mean? Because there's grumpy which is like mean, and then there's grumpy which is like gives like old soul, like just like quiet vibes rather than mean. And that's what I prefer. I prefer just like kind of quiet and like, you know. I read Heart of the Raven Prince by Sandra Odette. I read the first book in this series 2022 December, and I think I gave it a 5 star. I loved it when I read it. This one took me a little bit longer to read, if I'm remembering. I think I gave it a 4 star. It's a Cinderella retelling, I believe, and I don't really remember anything else about it. Okay, Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. I read this next, and I feel like I probably gave it just like a 4 star. To be honest, it's probably more of a 3 star. I don't think I really enjoyed it that much. Like, I don't remember really what happens at all. What? Next, I read a book called The Enforcer by Avery Keelan. I feel like that must be a hockey term because I don't think I read a dark romance about someone called The Enforcer. I've got a feeling that that wasn't something I did. I don't remember anything about it though. Next, I read a book called Aria by Jennifer Hartman. I don't remember much about it. I think it was like a girl started dating a guy in a band, but then the romance was actually with another one of his band members. A bit weird, and I think he had a kid. I don't remember anything else about it, but I gave it 4 stars, and I read the second book in that duology right after, and I think I gave that 4 stars as well, so I feel like it must have been okay, but I don't remember a single thing about it. Then I read Promises and Pomegranates by Savon Miller, but I gave that a 3 star, and I don't remember anything about it. So Like, this was, the start of the year was very much just like reading any short thing I could find on Kindle Unlimited that would keep you engaged in the moment, but you don't remember a single thing about it because it's not that good. Sorry. Oh my god, next I read Groupie by SM Sternich. I believe this was a reverse harem trope, which I don't like. Not to yuck anyone's yum again, but I don't know. I think it's because I, like, my thing in books is I want the guy to be so in love, obsessed with this girl that, like, he would do anything for her. That's just what I think it should be. So my soul's like, okay, if I'm expecting that from, like, the male love interest, I can't be sat over here with the girl and be like, but you can have all three of them. I read The Offside by Avery Keelan. 4-star, don't remember anything about it. Must have been okay though. I do actually recall being like, this is one of the better hockey romances I've read. Okay, then I finally picked up Crooked Kingdom because I was putting it off, reading just the most random books you could ever find. I gave it a 4-star. That's not true. I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like it. So I don't know why I gave it a 4-star. I just didn't really feel connected to any of the characters and I didn't care what happened. I don't know. Then I read Cross-Checked Hearts by Callie Mel. A 3-star, and I don't remember a single thing about it. Yes. Okay. And then I've read The Roommate by Rosie Dannon. And I absolutely loved this book. Gave it a 5-star. This was, like, I would say for a very long time that this was my favourite, like, light-hearted, fun, cute romance. Until I found another one that I liked more. It's about a girl who moves in with a roommate, and he ends up being like a porn star. Yeah, I really liked it. Don't remember much about it though. So what does that tell you? That I have a short memory. Next I read The Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. Again, I absolutely loved this book. I think I gave it like a 4.5 though because I just read a 5-star, didn't like it quite as much. But I did love this book and it's just fantastic. I love this series, by the way. Avalon Bay is one of my fave, like, summery reads. I don't know. For me, I love.
For the holidays now playing.
Why? What? Next, I read a book called Axel by Samantha Whiskey. Good name. 3-star. Don't remember anything about it. I read The Wall of Winnipeg by Mariana Zapata. I was always kind of put off by Mariana Zapata books because they are so long and they are famously slow burns. But I read Culty and Hands Down on my Kindle and I absolutely loved them. Like, when I think about lines in books, just my favourite lines in books, I think about in Culty when the guy, I forget his name, says, like, someone asks them, like, what are you two? And he's like, he so earnestly says, like, we're friends. And they're like, what kind of friends? Like, it's kind of like a, what are you two doing? And he's like, the best, he says, what does he say? He says, the best kind of friend, something like that. And that just, like, made me, like, my heart went something about that. And then very soon after that I was listening to Taylor Swift and a song came on that I hadn't really heard that much. Pauses, then says, you're my best friend. You know what it was. He is in love. That's not this book. I didn't really like this book. It didn't really, like, hit the same as the other Mariana Zapata ones have, and I haven't picked her up since. And then I read a book called Blame It on the Tequila by Fiona Cole. I gave it 3 stars. I don't remember anything about it. And I read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. I didn't love this one as much as the first one. I feel like not many people did, but I gave it like a 4-star. Like, I did enjoy it, but yeah, I wasn't as obsessed with the relationship. And then I read a book called Sinners Anonymous by Somi Sketcher. I gave it a 4-star, but I remember nothing about it, so that's good. Wouldn't want to remember things. That would be too convenient. Then I read Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. I thought this was the first book in the, like, Hot and Hammered series, and I had all 3 of them, so I picked it up. Turns out it wasn't the first one, it's the second. But I actually loved this. It was This was the first marriage in peril, and actually the only marriage in peril trope I've ever read, and I loved it. I found it so interesting, so different, so fun. And Dominic was the kind of like grumpy quiet that I like. It was like, he wasn't actually mean, he just doesn't really know how to express his feelings, and I like that. Then I read Mile High by Liz Tomford. I gave that like a 4.25, 4.5. I enjoyed it a lot, but I did find him a little bit mean and weird at the beginning, but I enjoyed it. I don't remember anything about it though. Because why would I ever remember anything? That would be helpful to do, and I wouldn't ever want to be that. Never, never, no, no, no. I read As Good as Dead. This is the last book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, which I read the year previous. And I was putting this one off because of how long it was. It's the longest out of all of them. It's like over 500 pages, which seems unnecessary, but I did really enjoy it. It got a bit spooky though, I'm not gonna lie. This book I read was Shatter Me by Tara Maffey. I gave this a 4.25 actually. I really enjoyed it for a first book. It definitely gave me like the dystopian, Divergent, that era of my life vibes, and I definitely feel like I would have loved this book if I read it when I was like 14. I went straight into Unravel Me, which is the next book in the series. I think I enjoyed this one apparently just a little bit less because I gave it a 4-star. Then I read Addicted After All. This is my favourite book in the Addicted series thing. I think I gave it a 4.75. Looking back, it could even be a 5-star. I don't know. But it's the last Lily and Lo book, like from their POV, and they're my favourite couple. And I always say about this book, it just felt like such like a treat, like such a little prize, like a reward for just going through all of the turmoil with them. We got this and it was amazing, it was beautiful, it was everything. And I was really into making playlists for the book I was reading when I read this, and I just found so many songs that just, I can't even speak about how much they represent this couple for me. I can tell you some though. Peace by Taylor Swift. Stop it, stop it. I got straight back into, what's it, Shatter Me. This was probably my favourite book in the series because it had the most Juliet and Warner, if I'm recalling. Oh my god, I don't know if I can even admit this. I read a book called Forbidden Fruit by AJ Phoenix. Read Restore Me, again just continuing the series. I think I was starting to get bored. I think the series should have ended as a trilogy 100%, but I think it was fine. I don't recall. Read Defy Me. This was the last Shatter Me book that I've read. I've yet to finish the series, so that tells you I do think she dragged it on a bit. Like, I'm not going to lie, I think it should have stayed as a trilogy. These other books were not necessary, and I wish I'd read Imagine Me at the time so I didn't have to read it now. Then I read A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. I think I gave this like a 4.75. I loved this book at the time. It takes place in like a boarding school kind of like gossip girly rich kids kind of setting, and I just eat that up breakfast, lunch and dinner. Loved this. Haven't continued with the other ones. Don't really have much of an urge to, so it might be one of those books that like I loved at the time but kind of moving on. Like, I don't think I'd reread this or anything. I read Baby Doll by Thea Lawrence. I gave that a 5-star. I love that book. It's on Kindle Unlimited and you can like get it on Amazon, blah blah blah, whatever, but it's about a girl called Phoebe, and she's basically a magazine, like, what am I talking about? She's a journalist and she writes for like a rock music magazine or a music magazine, I don't know, whatever, and she gets an assignment to go on tour. I love a good tour. She gets an assignment to go on tour with this band, and oh my god, it's incredible, it's incredible, it's incredible. I loved it. Fuel the Fire by Krista and Becca Ritchie. Again, it actually didn't take me that long to get back into the series, to be fair. Which couple is this? Connor and Rose book. Those were definitely my second favourite couple. We'll talk about Reich and Daisy when we get to it. I think I really enjoyed this. I don't remember that much about it, but I love Connor, love Rose. I love the whole Addicted 6, 8, all of them. When were we introduced to what's his name? Garson? I don't know. I read Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn. I think I gave that like a 4.25 or like a 4.5. I actually really enjoyed that one, but I've gone back to it was just like a random book in the middle of like a series of interconnected books. And I've tried to go back to other ones and I haven't been able to get into them. Like, I found the friend group dynamic and like the hockey players really like annoying, and I feel like the chapters of them go on for too long, and it's more like comedy, like trying to be like funny based, and I just don't care. Sorry. Then I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. Absolutely loved this. January Just, The Blueprint, everything, love them. So sweet. Putting it off because it didn't sound interesting to me, but I loved it just as much as everybody else seems to. Next I read Inner Jam by Kate Canterbury. Read that on my Kindle, my phone, whatever. I really liked it. It was like a small town single dad, but I don't think he was actually her dad. I think he was her uncle, but that kind of trope. And he was like obsessed with her from high school. It was great. I loved it. Then I read Bad Girl Reputation. This is the next book in the Elle Kennedy Avalon Bay series. I think this was my least favourite out of the whole trilogy. Second Chance Romance, that's what it was. Then I read The Happy Ever After Playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is my favourite Abby Jimenez book. I feel like it's a lot of people's. It's like One of Us is Famous trope. Rather than like, I hate in a book when it's like, oh, I can't get in a relationship because it's just like when they just have like so many, they like find someone that they love and they want to be with them, but then they have all of these reasons why they apparently can't, which are just bullshit reasons. She genuinely has like good reasoning to be like uncomfortable with the idea of like falling in love, but she does. She lets it happen and it's beautiful, and I just loved it. I read a book called Cherry Beets by Vicky James. I gave it a 4-star, but I remember nothing about it, so that's good. And I read Magnolia Parks. This floppy book. Nothing has ever touched me like Magnolia Parks does. Honestly, truly, you either love it or hate it. I just so happen to love it. When I think about the ending of this first book, it makes me want to throw up. Like, it's gross. It makes me fucking mad, and so it's so gross. Some of the like lines, when I read them, I was literally sobbing, like, no, no, please take that back, take that sentence back, because I can't have that in the world. It's too much for me. And I read this book called How to Fake It in Hollywood. It was about like a guy who's like an old movie star, or was in movies or TV shows or something, and he ends up having to have a fake relationship with this like girl. I don't know if she's up and coming or if what was going on with her career. I don't know. Then I read The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I liked this one more than I liked the first one, I think. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. Maggie Moves On by Lucy Score. This was my least favourite Lucy Score book that I've read. It was pretty boring. Like, it was like a home renovation TV show situation, and I didn't care about it. Then I read a book called Lilac by B.B. Reed. I think that was another reverse harem. So, yeah. You already know how I feel about that. I read Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, which was a reread. Such a good book. Oh my god. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of love triangles because I just like soulmate kind of energy, and I feel like if it's a love triangle, how can we have soulmate energy? But I loved this one because it wasn't really a love triangle. Like, it wasn't really at all. Sorry. So good. Read it. It's like a college romance. It's a football player guy. I think he plays football. I'm not sure. So good. Brightest Light of Sunshine by Lisanne Coney. I gave it a 4-star. I don't remember that much about it at all, but I believe the guy was a tattoo artist, and it was like tattoo artist and like sunshine fairy girl. And back to back, I read the entire Inheritance Games. Read this over when I was doing my exams, like my final uni exams. And these were so fun and good at the time because it was like not too much investment, really interesting, short, quick chapters. Like it was just perfect for what I needed and I loved it. Overall, I would say this is like a 4 to 4.5 star series for me. Probably more of a 4.25 star series. It's slightly better than 4, but yeah, I really, really loved it. Then I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is probably my second favourite book that I've read from her. It's like a doctor, they're both doctors, doctor romance. Yeah, and it's a little bit fake dating, and then also it's got a lot of anxiety representation from the guy, which I loved. It was really refreshing to see just like him be human almost. Next I read Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. I like annotated that for my mum for a present. I also read 28 Summers at the same time, doing the same thing. I gave both of them like 4 stars. They're not really my kind of books, but I enjoyed them for what they were at the time, but I wouldn't have read them if I wasn't gonna give them to my mum as a present. Then it started right after I finished my uni exams. I picked it up. I said, it's time. It's time to get into the romantices. So yeah, I picked up A Court of Thorns and Roses. I gave this a 4 star. It was a really okay start to the series. I kind of trudged through the first like 300 pages and then the last 100 pages. Chef's kiss, it really picked up. It was getting really good, getting very exciting for the next book. After that, back to back, I read A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin. In like, I think each book took me 2.5 days. 5 star, 4.75. Like this series, I really truly love this series. It's a 5-star series for me. I know it's a little bit cringy and it's a little bit like, you know, silly and not really, but it's so good. I love it. I love it. After that, I finally picked up Daisy Hates. It took me ages to pick this book up because I was so attached to BJ and Magnolia, and I knew that this book wasn't from like their perspective or even about them, and I knew it takes place over the same timeline as Magnolia Parks, and I was like, I don't care, I want more of BJ and Magnolia. It was 4 star. It was good. Like I read it quickly and obviously it was good, but I'm just not that connected to Daisy or Christian. Like I don't really care about either of them at all, or particularly like either of them. Love Theoretically. Ali Hazelwood is probably my favourite author this year. Consistently loved every single one of her books, and this is my favourite one. I just was in love with it. The main thing that made me like so into it is Jack, the guy in it, is just so perceptive and just aware of Elsie's like little habits and behaviours and how she tries to like appeal more to the outside world, and he's very like, don't do that. We want to see your real self, or at least I want to see your real self. And he doesn't baby her about it. He's not like, no babe, you're so beautiful and precious, and like, yeah. He's like, you're doing yourself and everybody else a disservice. Like, get over it, get up, girl, stand up. Then I read A Court of Frost and Starlight. It was fine, pretty, like I didn't really care to read it because it's just a novella, and to be honest, I don't know why she put this out. Like I didn't care. And I finally read The Spanish Love Deception. I actually started this maybe even in 2022. I don't know. I started it a long time before I read it, and it was just sat on my shelf, like collecting dust. And what I should have really done is just cut my losses and got rid of it. But that wasn't the place I was in at the time. So I did read it and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I gave it like a 3 star. I don't know why, I just couldn't get into it. It had all of the makings of a book I would like, but for some reason I didn't. Then I read Part of Your World, another Abby Jimenez book. This is like in a interconnected situation with Yours Truly, but I read Yours Truly first and this one comes first. I don't think it really matters. And I really enjoyed it. I definitely didn't enjoy it as much. I wasn't as engaged. But it was good. Like Daniel, the guy in it, is really good and sweet, and all of Abby's like love interests are really great. So my life changed. Yeah, I read Fourth Wing. As soon as I saw the cover of Fourth Wing on Amazon, I was intrigued by it. I don't know why. I saw this and I just said, that's interesting. But I didn't pick it up until, and that was before I ever read Akhtar. I loved every single thing about this book. loved the romance, loved the setting, loved the fantasy, loved the dragons. It's amazing. It's as good as people say it is. I'm sorry, it is. I picked up A Court of Silver Flames, which I'm really glad I did, because if I hadn't picked it up then, I don't think I would have read it even now, because I feel like that's just a thing I do. If I don't just continue the series in the moment, I put it off for so long. So I'm glad I did, but I didn't really love this book, to be honest. It's from Nesta's point of view, and it's like her and Cassian's kind of story. And to be honest, I feel like I've gotten over my hatred. Maybe hatred's a strong word. My dislike for Nesta. But I'm as an older sister, I'm never going to be able to comprehend her watching her youngest sister go out into like the woods and like literally risk her life every day to feed her, and like complain about it and not have any, just I don't care about your trauma, babe. You're a dick. I read a book called Manhunt by Vanessa Vale. To be honest, I only ordered this book because I loved the cover for some reason. And this is like a series. I will not be picking up another one. It was fine, but it was just so middle. Like nothing new interesting happened. I feel like I've read this book 500 times over. We're only in like August. Okay. Then I read Just Another Love Song by Kerry Winthry. This was like a 3-star. I bought it because it was like kind of like a small town romancy book that I hadn't heard of before or really like seen much about, and I didn't love it too much. It was pretty like average to me. And I read it on a plane, so I was really engaged like reading it, so yeah. Then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I remember this so clearly because I was reading this when we were on holiday and we were at Universal Studios, and in the long lines I would literally just be on my phone reading Better Than the Movies, like walking around like Hogwarts, like the Harry Potter castle, just like, which is really funny to me because I'm reading like this light fluffy fantasy book and I'm like in a cave. Yeah, it was fine. I didn't love it as much as I felt like people hype it up to be, but it was fine. I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. Again, it was fine to me. It was just like a standard cowboy romance book. Like there was nothing special about it to me. So I haven't continued the Chestnut Springs series. I know I should, and I've tried to pick up Heartless multiple times and just not gotten into it. So I need to continue it because people love it so much. It must be good. Like it must be some part good. But I just don't care. Like it doesn't sound interesting, so I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I read Cruel Summer by Morgan Elizabeth. It was fine. I don't really remember much about it. I don't know. I think it happened. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Then I read The True Love Experiment. This was another like middle of the road. Didn't really feel too much about it. It's probably like a 4-star. It was fine. I think it actually started off really good. I remember starting it and loving it, and then I just kind of fell off towards the end. Then I read Song of Forever Rains by E.J. Mello. Again, I bought this because it's like a series of 3 books and they all have spines like this, and I just, something about that was everything and I needed it. It was fine. It was like a 3-star, like middle of the road, but it wasn't anything special to be like, oh my god, fantasy romance is like 100 times better than a normal romance. This doesn't give that. Then I read Love and Other Words. Finally. Everybody knows how good this book is. I gave it, what did I give it? Like a 4.75. Like it wasn't quite a 5-star, but it was so good. It's a second chance romance. It's great. Brilliant. Loved it. Really sweet and cute. Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I did not expect to enjoy this book as much as I did. I really liked it. It's a general fiction-y book, and it takes place in like obviously Malibu, and it takes place over like one night, I believe, for the most part. There's a few like flashbacks. And I read Divine Rivals, which I absolutely loved this book. This is like, if I could write down what I want a romance to look like, I would write this. I absolutely love this book. I gave it 4.75, but thinking about it, I felt like it could be a 5-star, but I probably wasn't in the right setting to read it, like it was summer and stuff. But incredible. I can't wait. I'm going to read Ruthless Vows this month, I hope. Then I read Binding and Keeping 13, and I read those like over the travel days, coming back home from being on holiday. And oh my god, I loved them. I gave them both 4.75. So good. I'm so excited to continue that series. I haven't yet because I knew for me I need like a good space of time in a series that has different POVs, because if I go straight from one to the other and I'm really attached to the one POVs, I'm not gonna like the other ones. Like, I'm not gonna enjoy them because I'm just attached. I need a little bit distance. But I think I'm coming around to it, so I think I'm gonna read the next books soon. Johnny and Shannon are everything. I almost want to just reread them, but I know I shouldn't. I need to continue. Then I read The Alchemist by Paolo, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Just like a little short story about a shepherd, basically. Kind of inspirational, but also more just like affirming of like, you'll get what you give. Like, take a leap type, I don't know. It was good. I liked it. Fable by Adrian Young. Again, this I just bought because the cover, I think it's so cool and I wanted it. But I actually really enjoyed it. It's a pirate situation. It's not really a romance. It's more of just like a general fantasy. There's a little bit of romance going on. And it was really fun. I liked it. I read Truly Devious, which I don't have. My sister has it somewhere. And then I went straight into The Vanishing Stair after that. They're all like 4 stars. These are probably my favourite like YA mystery books. They're so good. They take place at like an academy setting, which again I love. I just really enjoyed them. And there's like the slightest dabble of romance, but you're never actually sure if it's going to end up being a romance, in my opinion. I was never sure if it was what was happening. I read Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. I gave it like a 3.5. I don't really remember anything about it, and I didn't read that long ago to not remember a single thing, so I don't even remember reading it, to be honest. Then I read When in Rome by Sarah Adams because everyone had been raving about it. I gave it like a 4 star. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did. Like, I thought it was a pretty standard romance. I don't really remember much about it at all, to be honest. I feel like it was like one of us is famous and she's like hiding away for a week. He was like a pie maker, I don't know. Then that scared me. Then I read The Summer Girl. This is like the final one in the Avalon Bay trilogy. This was my favourite out of all of them. I feel like I gave it like a 4.5, I don't know. So good. I loved it. I thought I was like in a bit of a reading slump when I picked it up because I wasn't really enjoying any of the other books that much. And I absolutely loved this one. It was so good. It's like friends with, I think it's, maybe there's a little bit of friends with benefits situation. But I think it's like friends to lovers more. I don't know, I don't recall. I'm royal blue because the show or movie was coming out, which I started the show or movie and then stopped it because I never watch TV shows or movies at all. Like, unless I'm watching like a rerun or I'm watching Housewives. Like, I just don't watch TV shows on my own. This was fine. I gave it like a 3 star. I wasn't really that engaged or interested. Then I read Hand on the Wall, which was the next one in the Truly Devious series. These at the time were the only books I was actually reading and like caring and just like enjoying my reading experience. All the other books I was just reading for the sake of reading. So these were really refreshing at the time, and I was getting really bored of just standard romances, so I was having a lot of fun with the YA mysteries. Then I read Caraval and Legendary. I really quite liked Caraval. I gave it a 4 star. I found it really interesting, loved the setting. I liked the main character, I liked the romance. It was fun. We got a little glimpse of the main character and this one's sister, who just so happened to be like the main POV in this book. I did not enjoy this book at all. I gave it like a 3. It's probably more of like a 2 or something. A lot of people have the opposite opinion to me. They didn't love Caraval, but it got better. Not how I feel. The sister of, so the main person in the first one was called Scarlett. Fine. The girl in the other ones, her name's Donna Teller. She's so fucking annoying to me. I usually like characters like this who are like very like confident, go-getter, like I don't need anybody else, like I da-da-da-da-da. But she's also just like so annoying and stupid sometimes. Like, she does the entire next book, which, whatever, everything bad that happens in it, literally destroy the entire world and like put so many people in danger and peril, are all her fault. And she knew that that could happen. Like she was like, I don't care, I'll do anything for what I want, kind of energy. And I was like, I just can't, I just don't like you. And she's so annoying and like, so... Okay, you can tell I don't like this character. I'm gonna stop now. I hate talking shit about a character, like I really truly do, because especially about a woman, I want to support you more than anything, but you just, that annoyance of Legendary. So yeah, I read Caraval and then I read Legendary. I needed a bit of happiness in my life, so I picked up Happy Place by Emily Henry. I absolutely loved the start of this book. When I first started reading it, I got the very 5-star feelings, really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4.75. It was amazing, but it didn't quite sell the 5-star by the end, but it was fantastic and I did love it. Then I finally read Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I didn't want to read it because it's fucking 600 pages, and what am I doing stood here reading a 600 page like interconnected standalone romance book? It's gonna be too long. I know it's too long. It was too long. It was boring. I didn't like it. I gave it a 3-star. I didn't enjoy it. Sorry. Then I read The 7-Year Slip, which I really enjoyed. I think I gave it like a 4.5, 4.75. The little magical elements in it, I thought they were really interesting. Loved the guy in it. He was really cool. Really cool. He was really sweet. Then I picked up another Maureen Johnson Truly Devious book because I love these books and I love this one as well. It's the first 3 is like a trilogy. They all take place one storyline. This is like a kind of a spin-off, but same girl, different setting. Nora Goes Off Script, which I read it really quickly because it was really quite engaging. I did not love the end romance situation. I enjoyed the first half of it, and then this girl just completely folded at the end, like completely folded after he'd like completely disappeared, basically is what happened. Stopped talking to her over the dumbest little miscommunication we find out, and then at the end he's like, you should have called me, like you've done. He basically blames everything on her, and she's like, okay, like let's get married now. Like what? Then I read Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. Big right there, it's right there. I loved this book. I gave this like a 4.5, 4.75. I didn't expect to love it at all, but I was just in the mood for another like fun cheesy book after Nora Goes Off Script, and it gave me what I wanted. I really loved the romance. I thought it was really sweet. People were a little bit mean to the main girl about like how she looked, which was weird, but I got over it pretty quickly and I did really enjoy it. I think it was just the right time. If I read this at another time, I don't think I would have liked it as much as I did, but it was just the right time for this book and I really enjoyed it. And I read Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher, a 4-star, and I'd say I agree with that, maybe a little bit lower. I liked it, and I think the whole idea of like a romance with like a villain is kind of fun, but this was very like lighthearted, funny, jokey, which isn't that much my vibe. Like in this setting, like I found it a little bit like, because it's like when high stakes things happen in like a funny way, like I don't know, I just find that a little bit weird, not my thing. I finally went back and read Fixer Up by Tessa Bailey. I still haven't finished this Hot and Hammered thing. I don't know if I will because I don't know if I can be bothered. It was fine. I think I gave it like a 3-star. I don't remember a single thing about it, but I read it, so yeah. Then I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and when I first finished this I gave it a 4.75 and then I dropped it down to a 4.25 because I definitely gave it that 4.75 because of everybody else's opinion and how much they loved it. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did. Obviously it was very good and I have high hopes for the next book, but I just didn't connect. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like invested wanting to pick it up, really caring that much. Then I read Serenading Heartbreak by Ella Fields. It's one of those books where like I couldn't stop reading and then I closed it and I was like, why did I read that? Then I read Heathens by Thea Lawrence, and I follow her on Instagram and I just like to support her books and read them. It wasn't really my kind of thing. It was like a end of the world, like dystopian kind of setting, and it had like vampires and lots of craziness, and it just wasn't really my thing, but it was fine. Like I read it and I finished it. It wasn't for me, like I wasn't the target audience for that book. But yeah, if you think you like the idea of like a dystopian vampire society, yeah. I read A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. This was my like first Illumicrate book that I ever got. I loved this book. This book made me cry, made me feel a lot of things, and I really enjoyed it. And I think I gave it like a 4.75. Not because of like the contents, like honestly reading the book it's probably more like a 3.5, 3.75. like it's not that engaging, but it just made me feel a lot, and I had a lot of like, I didn't because I didn't want to like damage the book or really do anything to it, but I had so many urges to underline, to highlight, and I literally would take my phone out, take a picture and like highlight on my phone because I had such the urge to just note down lines in this book. I would recommend it to people who are like me. Then I read Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. 5-star, brilliant, just as good as everybody says it is. Very emotional and sweet, and Archer is so cute and sweet and amazing. Then I read Darling Venom. This was, again, couldn't put it down, but I wouldn't say it was like a brilliant book. Like it was like bad TV kind of book, you know what I mean? Like it's like watching a reality show. That's what this book was for me, and I love reality television. Then I finally picked up Long Way Down. This is like not the last book in the Addicted series because there's an epilogue novel which I ordered. It hasn't come yet. I don't think it even is released in England until March, so I don't know when that's going to arrive. I don't know. Give this a 4-star. I think I enjoyed it for what it was, but Reich and Daisy are not my favourite couple because I was so uncomfortable with the formation of their relationship at the start. I kind of got over it by like this point. I was like, okay, like everyone's of age, it's fine, but I couldn't get over the fact that he was like looking at this 16-year-old girl being like, yeah. But it gave very like, wait until she turns 18 energy, which I don't know. It made me uncomfortable at the time of reading it, like really uncomfortable. So it was hard to continue with their relationship for me, but I forced myself to get over it basically. Then I read My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This was fine. I don't think I remember feeling like they had that much chemistry, but it was fine. Then I read The Dead Romantics, which I expected to really enjoy this book because it's by Ashley Poston. Didn't really like this, skimmed a lot of it. Just didn't enjoy it, didn't find it interesting or engaging or anything really. And also, Sex with a Ghost. And then I read The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. Again, I expected to like that the most out of like the spooky books I was reading at the time. I didn't really like it that much. It was pretty boring to me and pretty just like it was just like a romance. Like it was just like a normal romance. Nothing new, nothing special, nothing interesting for me. I read Iron Flame. Oh, I loved this book. I gave it a 5-star, and I know there's mixed opinions on it. I feel like pretty much everyone loved Fourth Wing. I know a lot of people found Iron Flame to be a bit of a letdown. I didn't feel that way. I loved it. Sorry, I just did. And after that, I read Assassin's Blade. I loved this book so much more than I expected to because this is a prequel. This is a prequel to the rest of the Throne of Glass series. I gave this like a 4-star, 4.25. It was really fun, really interesting. It had like a full storyline of its own, and I believe it's like 5 novellas in here. They give so much context for the main character. There's so many callbacks that you wouldn't know if you didn't read this at the start, and for me that's just how I liked it. I was very happy that I read this first. Straight after that, read Throne of Glass again, loved it, loved this series. It was a great start. Then I read a book called Our Overtime by Kate, and it just says S.C, so I don't know who that is. I don't remember a single thing about that book, so that's good. Finally finished The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I say finally finished because I was annotating that book for my little sister. I didn't have like a time restraint on doing it, so I just picked it up when I felt like it, which was never. My sister loved it. She loved it, so that's her recommendation. Then I read Crown of Midnight. Really enjoyed it. I feel like I slogged through the first few pages, 100 pages of this book, and then I read the last 150 in one night. The ending was great. Then I read The Naturals. I fucking loved that book. I read it in one night. So good. I can't wait to continue with that. Then I read Air of Fire, and this is where we start getting good, girls. This is where it really starts to pick up. Loved this book. Again, the first 100 or so, 200 pages was like, okay, we're doing it, and then the ending, incredible, loved. Okay, then I read The Storied Life of AJ Thickery. I like did that for a present for my mum, annotated it. Pretty good. I gave like a 4-star. It was the general fiction, not really my kind of thing, but I could appreciate that it was a really good book. And I read Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood, which I was hesitant about when it came out, simply because I saw a lot of people not love it that much and say like they felt like it was not as good as her other books. I personally really enjoyed it. Ali just never misses, in my opinion. Then I read Queen of Shadows. This is where I am. I haven't continued Throne of Glass yet. I've just had other things to do, other books to read, but this was a 5-star. Favourite book so far. Incredible. I read The Last Word. Forget the author. It's a thriller. Again, read it to annotate for my mum for Christmas, and it was a pretty good thriller. It was the one that's like about the person who leaves a bad review and then the author of that book kind of starts like stalking her and stuff. I don't know. Read The Second Sight of Zachary Cloudlessly by Sean Lusk, I think his name was. I read that to give to my dad and it was fine. I gave it like a 3-star. Again, it wasn't really my thing. It was more like a industrial age vibe. I listened to Loath to Love You by Ali Hazelwood because I knew that I was just never going to pick this up to read. It's 3 novellas and it's just, I'm never going to choose this over another book, but it was so good to listen to. I would so recommend, if you have Spotify Premium, listening to Loath to Love You if you haven't, because it's just 3 cute little stories. You can like read it when you go on a walk, and it was really good. I gave it like a 4-star. I read Kiss of the Selkie by Tessandra Odette. That is the next book in the Entangled with Fae series that I was talking about that I read earlier. It was fine. I feel like I gave it like a 3.5. Fun like twist on The Little Mermaid, but it wasn't amazing. And then I listened to, again, The Simple World by K.A. Tucker because I've been wanting to read that for a really long time and I just thought it would be a fun thing to listen to. Then I also listened to Wild at Heart and Forever Wild, which are it's the next book and then the novella in that series. I enjoyed all of them, listened to all of them. I was gonna listen to the last one in that series, but then I read the blurb for it and it was about another character in the book and I just didn't really care. So I might go back and listen to it just to finish it, but I don't care about her story, like at all. I was on such a listening kick because I just go on like long walks in the mountains and just listen. So I decided to, before the year ended, finally listen to Finale by Stephanie Garber, finally read it, whatever, because I knew I didn't want to. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I got this finished. It was like a 3-star. It was fine. Tella's so annoying. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I can't, but she's so annoying. She just annoys me so much. That was the final book that I read. When I listen back to my videos, so I say so many words wrong and I talk like a baby. That was the final book that I read in 2023. What a year. I feel like the books that I was choosing towards the end of the year highly surpass the books that I was choosing towards the start of the year. My reading taste, I feel like I finally, after it's like a 1.5 years of like being a consistent everyday kind of reader, finally I know what I like, I know what I want to read, I enjoy, I know what I'm doing, I know when I want to like annotate a book and when it's going to annoy me. I'm so excited to continue on and read some incredible books this year. Already, first book that I finished this year, 4.75, that was an incredible book. Maybe even a 5, no, was it 5? Thank you so much for watching this video if you made it to here. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I have probably nearly 2 hours of footage. What the fuck? You had a brilliant new year. I hope you're having a great start to this year and I hope that you have a great year to come and that you come back here throughout the year. Bye!